Coming up next on the Retirement Halftime Show, don't fear the retirement cliff. How planning today can provide reliable income long into retirement. Plus, stocks and mutual funds are not the same. We'll talk about their differences and how they could work in your retirement roadmap. And change is never easy, but sometimes very necessary. Advice from Purdue basketball coach Matt Painter on taking the first step to something new. Then, Andrea Moorhead reports on the volunteers and money need to support a Brownsburg nonprofit caring for unwanted animals. Now, the Retirement Halftime Show.
You wouldn't play a game the second half the same way you would the first, especially if you had the lead. This is the Retirement Halftime Show, helping you maintain your lead in retirement.
Welcome to the Retirement Halftime Show. I'm Heather McWilliams. Joining us is Alexander Joyce with ReJoyce Financial. Alex, in your book, ReJoyce in Your Retirement, which I have a copy of, and I absolutely love it,
Thank you.
You talk about drawing up your retirement plan, that it's important to identify an income gap.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You know, I think that when we always do this exercise with my clients, it's like, all right, take your hands out, and then on the left hand, let's draw out your fixed income. And they say, what does that mean? I say, well, let's look at your reliable sources of income going into or in retirement. And some people have a pension. Mm-hmm. They're blessed enough. They have a pension. And then they also have perhaps Social Security. Maybe it's him or her, or him or her. And then maybe that number is, let's just say $30,000 or $40,000 a year if you're lucky, right? Mm-hmm. And then over here on your right hand, you have your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And let's say your lifestyle is $100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Well, you got this big $60,000 number in the middle. And I say, well, whose responsibility is it to fill that gap? And they say, well, what do you mean? I say, well, are you wanting to hire that part out and have some accountability in terms of a partner, right? Or, which is an advisor, mm-hmm. right? Or do you want to take that on your own? And they say, well, I'm not really sure. And I say, well, let's draw out what that looks like. If you were to do it on your own, where would you start, and et cetera, et cetera? What does that process look like, if you will? And I think, Heather, that's the biggest misconception or misunderstanding in terms of advisory is process. Mm-hmm. I think that, some advisors have really strong processes, and I think that the accountability or missed expectation is there. Yeah. And so most people just really don't do anything. They just start, if markets like these, they just start buying down their portfolio until fear takes into play, and then they start selling, and then they're losing, and then they're outliving their money. And basically what that means, being relative, outliving your money is relative, right? It is a lifestyle that you're afraid of outliving. Yeah. And so that's where fear, and then people think it's too late, and they reach out to an advisor to try to recoup what they've lost, or et cetera, et cetera. And so you're kind of chasing it at that point. Mm-hmm. And and I won't over talk this, mm-hmm. but one of the big things I know that people are chasing it, some of the ways that they're doing that, maybe they really don't understand they're doing that, is they don't want to make decisions because they want their portfolio to be whole, which means they want the portfolio to grow to what it lost before they do something. That's called chasing it. Okay. We don't know what tomorrow looks like. We don't know what the market's going to open up on Monday at 9:30 and what it's going to close at 4 p.m. Eastern. And so I think that having a sustainable plan, something you know for certain that I won't outlive my money based on facts and data as opposed to emotion. Mm-hmm. I think once people have that and they better understand it, and again, we manage expectation, I think they'll feel a lot better about the direction they're going.
Yeah. In your book, you use the term retirement cliff. That sounds scary.
Yeah.
Sounds scary.
You don't want to ride, you don't want to drive off that thing, right? It is scary. Yeah. And it's real.
Yeah.
Because we think about 2008, we held this mountain, though. We think about 2007, 2009, it was the Great Recession. The market went down 53.1%. And it's like, well, what side of this mountain were you on when that happened? Well, I was on the climbing side. Great, you were still working every 2 weeks, you had a paycheck. But let's take that 2007, 2009 and put it on the other side. Mm-hmm. Now you're spending instead of saving, and how catastrophic would that be? Well, that will derail any good plan. And so no one wants to lose no one wants to lose really not much, right? And so we just want to make sure that, again, we properly manage expectations, we understand the risk appetite, and we draw up a plan that's sustainable, reliable, predictable. We make a lifestyle whole. And you know what, Heather, sometimes in some cases, the worst thing or the best thing, if you will, that somebody can possibly hear is no, not right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know it's surprising.
Yeah,
it's like,
it does.
no, hold on. What? No just means no, not right now, but let's draw up a plan that says when you can.
Right.
At least there's power in knowing.
I like how you break it down into layman's terms too. I mean, you use the term like green money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yellow money, red money,
yellow
right?
money, yeah.
I try to make this thing so simple.
You make it really simple, which I appreciate that.
Yeah, because, advisors, sometimes it's difficult They love to tell you how much they know. And so I think that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right. You're
So I
right.
want to make this thing simple. Even if they do it on their own, I want to empower people to be able to do that.
I agree. And as you always say, a little bit of planning can go a long way. And that's what you guys are here to do.
100%.
Holistic firm, holistic approach. You have everybody under one roof, and it doesn't cost a thing to come in and see you.
Thank you.
As always, great advice. We're going to have a lot more, so stick around.
Still ahead on the Retirement Halftime Show, diving into the differences between stocks and mutual funds, how one or the other could work in your financial portfolio. And then later, Andrea Moorhead puts on her boots to take us to a Hendricks County nonprofit working to care for unwanted pets. You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. Don't let anxiety ruin your retirement. Get a second opinion about your current plan. Call the experts at ReJoyce Financial today at 317-903-9157 and see if you're on the right track.
The journey to retirement takes many twists and turns. Don't take that trip alone. Let the team at ReJoyce Financial be your co-pilot. The expert team of financial planners can create a roadmap that gets you to your goals. They'll work with you to create a financial plan that gives you confidence and peace of mind. Start the process today. Call 317-903-9157 or text 707-ReJoyce. Rejoice in your retirement.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show, powered by ReJoyce Financial.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. I'm your host, Alexander Joyce. With me today is one of our advisors, Joel Parody. And we are talking about some of the unique differences between individual stocks and mutual funds. I think that, a show like ours, of course, leading with education, it is very important for all of our viewers and audience to know that we don't give recommendations like this because we don't know the people, right? We don't know our audience, although we would like to from an emotional and goal perspective, because I think for us, understanding the need for a plan before we jump into investments is just extremely important. That is our philosophy. Plan first, invest later. Without a plan, there is no investment. And so I think that when we're sitting down with a family, if you will, Joel, and they are confused, right? Not necessarily about what their goal is or their direction or big picture, what they're trying to achieve. Most are a little, there's a lot of distractions, right? And I think that a lot of them are a little bit unorganized, if you will, or have no real distinct direction of how to get there. Of course, that's where we come in. And so, when we look at a portfolio or we're doing an analysis or some of the high level views of research, and you get very involved in that, you and your team. And so I think one of the things our audience really wants to know, high level, if you will, just basic, because we want this to be palatable, people to understand it, if you would. Some of the differences between a mutual fund, right, or individual stocks. Maybe kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so we'll start with a stock. So a stock is what you buy as part of the company itself, right? You become a part owner, if you will, a shareholder. When you buy shares in a mutual fund, what you do is you pool your money with other investors and have a fund manager control those investments. They purchase whatever they think for maybe an investment goal.
And I think that's where some get a little bit confused from an individual stock perspective, right? You own shares of the corporation, and so you become a shareholder and you can actually vote if you wanted to, right? And also from a fund perspective, when we think about a fund manager and then you have really no say, if you would, it kind of gets into cost, which is a completely different segment, right? But then we start to look at the underlying expenses inside of that. Is it true, Joel, and I want to put you on the spot, but one being more passive, one being more active? Which direction do you think one goes versus another?
When it comes to mutual funds, they tend to be a little bit more actively managed inside of the fund. Right. So you have a higher expense ratio, a higher cost. You pay fees for that.
Sure.
On top of the sales charge.
Right. And so I think that for someone, is it the exact opposite of a stock?
Right.
From a cost perspective.
Yeah. Exact opposite.
So meaning no expenses, right? You own. Which do you see for more so on one side for one person and maybe a goal on the other side for another individual? Which do you think from a risk tolerance standpoint, if you would?
Yeah, when it comes to the mutual funds, it tends to be a little bit lower risk because you're not out there buying individual stocks, trying to pick out what's best for you. You have somebody else, a professional, doing that for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to the stocks, you have to try and, dive into that data yourself.
Right. Generally, when we see people that walk in with an individual stock style portfolio, they are generally what we would call in our industry or in our practice, if you would, can't speak for all, but the do-it-yourselfer, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of picking out what their vision is, or what they like, what they use, maybe the company that they're associated with, or maybe they're a pharmacist, they choose some pharmacy style, or they're a scientist, they look at maybe some Lilly or biotech, and so it's things they can gravitate to, if you would, versus sometimes where a mutual fund is more kind of like what you said, right? You just kind of set it, you forget it, you let a person, a fund manager, as you just mentioned, have control of it because they don't want to get in there and pick their own stuff.
Right.
And so I think that for us, educating on the differences is important.
Yeah.
Important to educate the community, if you will, on what side or what we believe to be best for them, because some people just simply don't know. Right? Yeah. And that's why they lean on us for that advice, if you would, lean on a guy like you for proper experience and advice to be able to educate and of course, dictate which side they should be on, right? And I think they should trust that advice. When we have a holistic practice like ours, we're not just looking at mutual funds or stocks or ETFs or bonds, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at the bigger picture. Sure. We're painting the picture, and we're looking to see what a client needs to do to fulfill their dream. Set them free. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal.
Right.
I appreciate your time, Joel. You watch the Retirement Halftime Show. Stay tuned. There's more show to come.
Still to come on the Retirement Halftime Show. No one likes change, but Purdue basketball coach Matt Painter says it's necessary, even when working with a financial advisor. Then, digging into the factors that make up your credit score, how they determine how much it costs you to borrow money.
Don't let anxiety ruin your retirement. Get a second opinion about your current plan. Call the experts at ReJoyce Financial today at 317-903-9157 and see if you're on the right track.
Our friend is back. Her compassion, her connection to the community, that smile.
I'm all about a pivot.
ReJoyce Financial is proud to welcome Andrea Moorhead as our community impact anchor, with stories seen on the Retirement Halftime Show.
What would you say to someone who's contemplating becoming a volunteer? How would you encourage them?
Follow Andrea and make ReJoyce Financial a part of your family too.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show, powered by ReJoyce Financial.
ReJoyce Financial gives back with Andrea Moorhead, highlighting the people and organizations making life better in our community.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. Host Alexander Joyce with me, co-anchor Andrea Moorhead. She's our community impact anchor. And you recently did a super cool story at Oinking Acres, right on the west side of Indy, and getting money.
Yes.
Big pigs.
Big pigs. Big potbelly pigs. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
You know what? One thing that I learned during this story is that, there's a lot of compassion at heart that we all should have for animals. I learned that pigs are not just pigs for, people want to eat bacon and pork and all that stuff, but they can be pets as well. And they need the same kind of love and compassion that we give our dogs as well as our cats. And so imagine this 14-year-old girl who loved pigs, and her love for pigs has now turned into saving pigs as well as other animals. Take a look. Every pig for you has a backstory.
Yep.
So who's here?
So over here we have some of our resident pigs. This is TT. We've had him since February of 2020.
And meet 14-year-old Livy.
She came to us after her owners passed away and no one else in the family was able to care for her.
Next door is 15-year-old Clyde.
He came from Montgomery County Animal Welfare League. He was surrendered there when his previous owners could no longer take care of him. All he does is eat and sleep.
He's retired.
He is.
Yeah. Across the street from the pink mailbox on North County Road in Brownsburg, you'll find a farm like no other. Olivia has been true to her love for pigs since she was 14 years old.
And I stumbled across this organization called A Critter's Chance. I submitted my application, I adopted a pig from them. Then I started fostering pigs for them, and the first 4 that I ever fostered, I ended up keeping.
At 16, she founded her own nonprofit, Oinking Acres Farm Rescue and Sanctuary, where abused and neglected animals find comfort. With her mother's help,
and peacocks will tend to roam. So if you get them in any area in the city, then they'll roam.
They'll roam. Providing a loving home is Olivia's passion and life's calling.
Our goal is to take these animals in, rehabilitate them enough to the point of adoption, and then find them wonderful qualified homes.
Believe it or not,
they get up to 20 surrender requests a week about unwanted animals, primarily pigs. Oftentimes, owners believe their so-called teacup pig, which doesn't exist, will remain small and easy to manage.
This is what a full-grown teacup micro mini pixie pig looks like 14 years later.
A big pig.
Yes.
And don't be fooled by the perception that pigs stink and are dirty.
Pigs are actually very clean animals. They're highly intelligent. They're the third smartest animal in the animal kingdom, following dolphins and orangutans. And there's been tests and studies done to show that pigs can actually outperform a 5-year-old child on a cognitive test.
I also learned pigs are pets. Like a dog, they wag their tails when they're happy.
Pigs have feelings, and they do cry. They cry tears.
We had one pig come in. Her name was Luna. Her people dropped her off, put her in the stall, and left. And she laid there. And at first I thought she was having a seizure. She was violently shaking, but when I got up on her, you could visibly see her crying. She was distraught that her people had just dropped her here and left her. She had no idea what was going on. And so I was 15 years old at the time. That was the first time that I had ever encountered something like that. And it is something that I will never forget as long as I live.
Each month, operating costs to cover food, hay, straw, supplies, bedding, and vet bills total $16,000 to $20,000.
We receive wonderful care from Purdue. I've taken in so many animals there that probably should not have lived, but they walk out of the clinic about 2 weeks later.
They don't receive any municipal, city, or government funding. Your donations keep the barn doors open.
We have a sponsorship page set up through Patreon. It's a wonderful way to symbolically adopt an animal that already lives here at the farm.
With a 5-year plan to expand the farm to include a medical barn, funding and volunteers are welcomed.
Anybody that is maybe retired and has some off time or would just like to spend some time with the animals and make their community a better place, we can always use volunteers.
Other things that you could use, I'm looking at blankets and all of that. We're talking about that.
Blankets, towels, comforters, sheets. Anybody that's local that would like to drop items off, like produce, the pigs love snacks like Cheerios, Fruit Loops, watermelon.
Your gift cards from big box home improvement stores are used to make structural improvements.
We do have PayPal and Venmo. Those handles or QR codes are on our website. We can also accept checks if someone would like to send them to the farm. Our address is listed on our website as well.
Physical and emotional wellness for all animals at Oinking Acres is Olivia's mission.
I'm a little scared.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared?
Yep. He takes them very gently. Some of them don't.
Oh, I'm scared.
You can just set him down for him. He'll find him.
There you go, Clyde.
Clyde and his other farm mates teach us the power of love.
Be kind in everything you do, the way that you speak, the way that you act, the way that you go about your life. Do it in a kindly manner because everybody needs kindness.
Including pigs.
Yes, including the pigs.
I am so grateful for Olivia and her mother. They were just absolutely wonderful to meet. And I just love her attitude of perseverance and resiliency. And she says this is literally her calling. This is all she ever sees herself doing for the rest of her life. And so kudos to you, kudos to you.
That's
and
awesome.
if you want to learn more information about Oinking Acres, just go to our website at ReJoyceFinancial.com/Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea. You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. Stay tuned, folks. There's more show to come.
Coming up, advice for growing your credit score. What you can do today to pay less to borrow money tomorrow. Take a leap of faith today and call 317-903-9157 to schedule a no-cost, no-obligation visit with the experts at ReJoyce Financial.
Your choice of coach matters. Choose the best financial coach in Indiana to be on your team. Alexander Joyce and the ReJoyce Financial team have the knowledge and bench strength to make your money last. Text 707-ReJoyce. That's ReJoyce with a Y. Or call 317-903-9157 to schedule a no-cost, no-obligation visit to get your retirement game plan in order. Your financial coach matters. Choose only the best. ReJoyce Financial.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show, powered by ReJoyce Financial.
Planning to win. Coaching strategies for financial success. Here's Alexander Joyce and Purdue University men's basketball head coach, Matt Painter.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. I'm your host, Alexander Joyce, and with me today is Matt Painter, head basketball coach here at Purdue. And And as we always say, the theme of the show is you wouldn't play a game the second half the same way you would the first, especially if you've got the lead. So let's just jump right in. In our industry, I would say, not just my practice, but one of the biggest things we want to do is build a relationship with our clients. A long-lasting, prosperous relationship. And at the end of the day, just like a player comes from somewhere else, a client comes from somewhere else as well. And sometimes we see it's frustrating on our end because we see a solution, black and white, right in front of our faces that could help the client. But the relationship from the other side is so strong, so tight that sometimes it's the change they know they need to make, right? Yeah. By understanding first and foremost that, hey, you know what, these are my assets. This is my life's work going into this, and I need to leave, right? Sometimes breaking up is hard to do. Yeah. But you know, at the end of the day, it's the passion that goes into that. Right. What are some of the techniques, I guess, or what is your view on just that when it comes to building that relationship? Right. But at the end of the day, making sure that, hey, you know what, I'm the leader, and this is a professional relationship. Right. What comes of that?
Yeah, you have so many interactions with guys. You're with them so much. Right. And it starts in that recruiting, and it starts by being authentic and being yourself and just being straightforward about things. And it's, you know, don't judge me on what I say, judge me on what I do. Right. Yeah. And so like now, like here's where we are. I always try to tell guys like especially in the recruiting space, like go talk to some people that have been successful here, and go talk to some people that maybe have transferred and not been as successful as those other people. Like get the gauge, so get the full picture of things, and so you can get to the point where you want to get. And like you said, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe, you know, I'm not for you, maybe Purdue's not for you, but the relationships, you know, are so important. Guys that are competitive, that want to win, they're going to fight, they're going to go whatever, but that little bit extra of everything is do they want to play for you? Do they like their teammates? And so that's something for me, like getting the people with that competitive spirit in there, getting people that want to get their education. You know, you're going to have differences in that locker room, but you got to have a good core of similarities. Right. You got to want to get your degree from Purdue. Right. You got to want to win a championship, you know, but there's also that little selfish bone in there. I want to be a big part of this, you know, but when you're not a big part of it and you got to play that role that we talked about, you know, be thankful, be grateful, because there's some people on this team that would love to have that role and they're not even getting into games. So like sometimes like when you feel like you got it bad or you don't quite have it the way you want, it can be worse. Like guys will play 12 to 15 minutes and they'll hang their head a little bit or whatever. I'll be like, 12's not the lowest number. Yeah, that's true. Like understand, like, but if you act that way or you carry yourself that way, your body language is bad, 12's gonna go down. Why can't 12 go up? Yeah. Like, but also the person that's playing instead of you, that's your friend. Yeah. It's your teammate. Right. That's a guy at Purdue with you. So like understand that big picture. So if you pull for him, you're really just helping yourself. Sure. So a lot of those things through relationships are so important, but that overall trust, and then the accountability. And that accountability, like making guys accountable, really starts with making yourself accountable. Doesn't it? Like I have to be accountable as a coach, but I also got to be able to own when I make mistakes. Right. And they'll really jump all over that. They love that. Like, hey man, I blew this. They love that. Especially when your old man says it. Like, you know, they love that.
I think that's fantastic. I think you know, one of the personal questions for me, right, is for you, how do you deal with change, right? I mean, you've been at this 30 years, going on more. Yeah. The industry's changed. Yes. Basketball has changed, right? You know, some of it's out of our control, like the market, right? Wall Street Journal. I don't know what's going to be on the paper tomorrow. Yeah. You know, I don't know what's going to happen in tomorrow's market at 9:30 to 4 o'clock. Right. Yeah. I don't have a crystal ball. Yeah. But I know there's going to be change. Yes. It's either going to be good or going to be bad, neutral. It would be probably good today. Yeah. How have you dealt with these things that are just kind of out of your control? Yeah. But the task at hand is still real and raw. Leadership is still there, and you still got a team to manage, and you still got a championship to win. Yeah. Well, it's the same for everybody. That's what I always look when things are tough or things are bad, or you know, you're like, man, is that light? Is that hope? Or is that a train coming? Like, I mean, just like, but you got to take a step back and say, like, all of those other schools,
they have to go through the same thing. So it's not like hard for Purdue, or it's hard for me. It's hard for everybody in those moments. Like, now you got to be able to keep everybody together. I think it starts with the makeup of a player, the makeup of a person. If you get guys that love basketball, if you get guys that want to be here, like now when things are like, you got to change, or you got to do things. One of my former players always says, the guy that I played for is not the guy that's coaching at Purdue right now. And I don't think it's a compliment in a way. He just feels that, like, I was harder on those guys, you know, when they were coming up. But 15 years ago, it was different. It was different. And now, like, you know, you just want guys to be on edge, to be grimy, to be tough, to be resilient. And so you want to try to instill that. The thing that you grow from the most is adversity. And so do you run from adversity? Are you the guy that's going to play at 4 schools in 5 years? Like, you know, do you run from things? Like, at some point in life, you know, you got to keep your feet on the ground and deal with it. And own it, and just work through it and make the best for the situation. That growth right there is invaluable. And then sometimes you got to take a step back and say, you know what? I don't know, but I'm going to get it figured out. To be able to guess to a client or guess to your players, like you're asking for trouble.
I know, right?
But when you don't know, like, you don't know, it's okay. It's all right. Now we're going to go gather facts. We're going to go, and when you don't have time yet to give you the data with those changes, that's a little bit difficult because you are guessing a little bit. That's when you really got to collaborate, and sometimes the best move is no move until you get things figured out.
Hoping to have enough income to last through retirement isn't a strategy, it's a recipe for failure. Everyone needs a tangible plan. ReJoyce Financial can help you get on the right path. Come in for a visit and let's discuss what's going on with your financial well-being. We're an inclusive team that won't offer judgment, only ideas on how to make your money work for you. Give us a call at 317-903-9157. Let us help you rejoice in retirement.
Today's tip of the week for stronger financial health. Someday, you may need to borrow money from a bank or another lender to make a larger purchase, such as a house or a car. Having a good credit score will help you do that. Higher credit scores typically lead to a lower interest rate because the risk of default is lower. Vice versa, lower credit scores typically lead to higher interest rates. Paying at least the minimum due on time for loans and credit cards is one factor that will grow your score. As you use credit, it's a good idea to keep track of your credit history because inaccuracies happen. There's also the possibility of identity theft. Federal law allows you to see a copy of your credit report for free annually. You can access that at annualcreditreport.com. That's today's tip of the week for stronger financial health.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show, powered by ReJoyce Financial.
Thank you for watching the Retirement Halftime Show. If you have questions about today's show, give us a call, send us a text, or go to our website. Most importantly, maintain your lead in retirement. I'm Alexander Joyce, and I'll see you next time.